taste, man. It's taste.
In this video, I'm going to share the 4 levels of taste and how you can develop it.
Right before we get into it, hi, my name is Tilwani Alesho. For the last 5 years, I've learned multiple creative skills, still learning more. And on this journey, my mission with this channel is to share the personal frameworks I've developed for learning creative skills with as many creatives as I can to help them learn new skills and improve on their existing ones. Let's get back to the video. I found that the reason why most people find taste hard to define is because when people use the word taste, they're often referring to one of 4 different things. Taste as a preference, taste as a standard, taste as a skill, and signature taste. I'll explain all 4. Taste as a preference. This is when an individual essentially has an opinion on the kind of work that they like. And everybody, in a sense, can have this kind of taste, provided there's enough exposure to that particular craft or medium. For example, if you've watched a decent amount of movies, you would have certain kind of movies that you like. And if you've heard a decent amount of music, you definitely have a certain style of music that you like. But note, this has nothing to do with whether or not the creative piece in question is actually good or not. For example, I like rap music. You may or may not like rap music, but that has nothing to do with whether a certain song in question is actually a good song or not. This is where the second comes in. Taste as a standard. Taste as a standard is one step higher than taste as a preference, and it's usually what most people refer to when they say, oh, he has good taste, she has good taste. And it is that individual has a strong sense of what good quality work looks like. For example, we could say Noah, a fictional character, has great taste in movies, and that would mean that if Noah recommends a movie to you, you can almost guarantee that it's going to be a good movie. And this doesn't stop Noah from having a preference. Noah could like Marvel movies, for example. However, he still knows what Marvel movies are great and what Marvel movies are not so great. However, can Noah get a camera and go out there and make a $1 billion blockbuster film? No! This is where we have taste as a skill. This is literally a creative's ability to develop work that hits a certain standard, a certain level of quality. And this is no small feat at all. The biggest gap in terms of taste is between those who have taste as a standard and those who have taste as a skill. Because taste as a skill, there's no shortcut to developing it. The only way is to legitimately learn and practice the craft over time. AI can't develop taste as a skill for you. But it is also where the biggest returns come from, because it is only people that have attained taste as a skill that can push the frontiers of a creative medium. Now, let's talk about signature taste. The Steven Spielbergs, Christopher Nolan, Gox, Forrest Frank, Picasso. Basically, any creative that has a recognizable style that meets the high standard but are also uniquely theirs. Now, every creative has a kind of signature taste. Actually, everyone has a set of styles, references, decisions they make in their crafts that are repeated and unique to them. However, how much they develop it and refine it to the point where it is very clear and obvious and uniquely theirs varies a lot from industry to industry, person to person, and craft to craft, because you don't actually need signature taste to be a very, very, very successful creative, professional creative in that sense, because clients do not care. But anyway, that's a video for another day. Let's continue with taste. Now, there is one more kind of taste that is worth mentioning, and that is taste as a superpower. This is when a creative has the ability to produce work at a high level and standard of quality, but tailor it towards a specific audience or a specific need, usually a creative problem or a business problem. A good example of this is the motion design studio Ordinary Folk. In the beginning, they had a kind of signature style, but now they've broken out of that and ventured into multiple stylistic arenas. However, all their work is great. That's an example of taste as a superpower in action. Not every creative is going to get there, not every creative needs to get there, but then it exists, and so I said I might as well share it. Now, how to develop great taste. Once we understand the 4 levels of taste, it actually becomes very easy to understand how to develop it. The biggest mistake we make when trying to develop taste is when we think that we can just jump levels and skip directly to the top. I've tried it a number of times. It doesn't work that way. You still have to go level by level if you are going to actually make it. And I've realized there are 4 basic steps between taste as a preference and signature taste. The first is exposure. The level of exposure you need in a craft is inversely proportional to your level of experience in that craft. So if you are entering a field for the first time, if you've never created content in your life, you've been a consumer but not somebody who analyzes content. Those are 2 different things. If you've just been a consumer of content, then if that's where you're entering from, study a volume and variety of content. Look at a lot of content actually and study it and look at volume and variety. That's important, volume and variety, because that's the foundation for taste. The next is actually learning. You're learning the theory so that you can put it into practice. And when you practice it, you actually cement your understanding of it. And when I start out in practicing, I always see, copy, analyze, do. So what I consider that to be is see something that somebody did that actually speaks to you, copy it. And when I say copy, I mean duplicate the effort that went into creating that one thing to create another thing that resembles that initial thing. So the purpose of doing that is just to cement the learnings into your mind through practice so that you can start building these techniques that match your level of taste, which is very important, because that loop, it's a like 2-way loop. As you build the techniques that match your taste is developed by the process of executing those techniques. Hope that makes sense. And once you've gotten to the level of taste as a skill, by going through the learn and practice loop again and again and again and again and again, to develop signature taste, it's one basic thing: experimentation. Exposure, learning, practice, and then experimentation.